This is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, there's a link in the pinned comment and description. Spoilers incoming. To summarize the events of part 1 as briefly as humanly possible, 15 students have been trapped at Hope's Peak, an elite high school. Each student, except our POV character Makoto, is an ultimate, aka the best at some particular thing. Monokuma, a black and white robot bear, has taken over the school as headmaster and is forcing the kids to play a killing game. If a student can kill another student and not be discovered during the class trial, they are granted freedom while everybody else is killed. A number of special regulations have been laid in place, and violating any of them will get a student killed, which is what happened to Junko after she attacked Monokuma. Sayaka tried to kill Leon and frame the murder on our POV Makoto, but ended up being killed by Leon instead. The students were able to prove his guilt, and he was executed by Monokuma. A few days after that, Chihiro was killed by Mondo after Monokuma threatened to reveal each student's darkest secret. Another student decided to spice things up and try to frame somebody else for Mondo's crime, but the students were able to see through and prove that it was Mondo who was responsible. Mondo's execution has just concluded. In a deeply uncomfortable sequence that sexualizes a girl while she's grieving the murder of her friends, a bonus ick factor for her being a high school girl, we see Hina crying and she decides, donuts. Donuts will make me feel better. But as she's headed for the warehouse to get some, she hears a strange noise from the bathhouse. So she goes for a little peek and sees a glowing green light and a human silhouette, which scares the donut urge right out of her. The next day, Hina isn't at the morning meeting. Sakura says that she is taking it easy because her stomach hurts, and Kiyotaka is having a rough time losing Mondo and has gone nearly catatonic. So they debate what they should do without his irreplaceable guidance. Celeste says, why bother doing anything? They have all they need to survive. Why would anybody want to go back to the outside world filled as it is with discrimination and violence? To which Hifumi whines that he won't be able to see all his favorite anime characters if he stays in here, such as, quote, Demon Angel Pretty Pudgy Princess, Cat Girl Dog Boy. And Robo Justice the Galactic King. Yasuhiro steps in, saying as the oldest member of the group, he'll take over leadership, and he asks everybody to, surprise, surprise, go search the new areas. Said new areas include a nurse's office, fully stocked with supplies, found on the ground floor, and access to the 3rd floor. Up there, we have a physics lab, an art room, and a recreation room. Starting with the art room and the adjoining repository, they have what you'd expect, art and things to make them, including easels, paint supplies, as well as hammers and chisels to sculpt, and a dolly to move the sculptures to and fro. In the repository in the back, there's a photo laying on the ground which depicts Mondo, Leon, and Chihiro in a classroom together, hugging and teasing each other. The windows show a clear blue sky. This is deeply confusing to Makoto. Why is the room not sealed off? Why only these 3? How are they so happy? When was this taken? By who? Where's the camera that they used? Monokuma pops up, steals the photo, and dips just as quickly as he showed up. In the physics lab, Makoto finds Kiyotaka, still empty-eyed and silent. On the table is a pink digital camera with an anime character on it, which he yoinks, never know, right? In the center of the room is a large, strange machine that Monokuma claims is a time machine. He says it was created by the ultimate physicist who once went to Hope's Peak, but they were killed in, quote, the tragedy. This perks Kiyotaka right up, who says he can use it to travel back in time and stop Mondo. But Monokuma was trolling them. It's just an air purifier. In the rear of the physics lab is the equipment room, which has various equipment used in physics experiments. Makoto notes that there are tarps stacked up in one corner and a strange smell, which Jill declares is formaldehyde. Yeah, Jill has decided that she's going to spend more time out and about against Toko's will because she wants to murder the stereotype of a killer with split personality. Anyway, off to the recreation room. It has games such as shogi and pool, as well as some magazines on various subjects. Celeste asks Monokuma if he'll be adding new issues to these magazines, and he tells her that, shucks, even if he wanted to, he can't, because magazines are kinda, whoops, almost dropped some lore. Bye-bye. Back in the dining hall, Hina is feeling better. Don't worry, she ate some donuts. We aren't allowed to talk to her right now, though. There's only one important thing that occurs here, which is that the camera is revealed to be a rare collectible that belongs to Hifumi, but he doesn't want it anymore because it's no longer mint condition, so Celeste takes it. After that, Celeste presses Hina on lying about her stomach ache, and Hina tells them that she saw Chihiro's ghost in the bathhouse, and she was sure that nobody would believe her, so she tried to keep it to herself. So they go there to investigate. Hifumi invokes Cthulhu for some reason, and they find that old broken laptop from the library. The bathhouse and the dressing room don't have cameras, so the students conclude that Chihiro must have fixed up the laptop, being the ultimate programmer, of course, entails computer repair skills, and hidden it in the bathhouse lockers so Monokuma wouldn't discover it. They launch a program on it called Alter Ego, which is a digital version of Chihiro that refers to the once living Chihiro as Master, which is kind of odd. Kyoko asks Alter what he knows about what's going on and what goal he was given by Chihiro. He says he knows just the general idea of what's going on, that they're trapped in a killing game, and his goal is to analyze the massive amount of files on the laptop. They're protected by powerful security, though, so it's taking him some time. But hey, that means they must be pretty important, right? Kyoko asks him to keep on the task, but to be careful not to get noticed by the mastermind. He says, "Don't you worry. I already have a plan. If somebody suspicious comes around, he'll scream really, really loud," which is fine and dandy during the day while there's somebody who might actually be around, but the dorms are completely soundproof, and the mastermind would almost certainly get suspicious if they try to rotate guard duty. So instead, Kyoko volunteers to leave her room door open so she can hear Alter if he screams. Hifumi gets weird about Alter Ego. He's way into the fact that he calls people master, to which Yasuhiro says, but he's a guy and a computer program. And Hifumi has no problem with either of those things. Everybody leaves the bathhouse and Hina is overjoyed, shouting about how she did something useful for one. Monokuma pops up right on cue and asks, what did she do? Thankfully, Celeste is a good liar and whips up an excuse on the spot. They were going to use the bathhouse, but because it isn't split by gender, they played rock, paper, scissors, and Hina won for the girls. Monokuma tries to goad the boys into sneaking a peek, but Makoto doesn't want to treat the girls like that. Monokuma is stunned that he would abandon this ideal man's fantasy, to which Makoto says he's not sure a real man's fantasy should be about spying on girls and stuff. Good boy. After the girls wrap up, Monokuma summons everyone to the gym for another classic motivation. Moolah in the form of $10 million. God, I hope that's dollars, not yen. You can do better than that, Monokuma. The students laugh at both the idea of killing for money and the amount, but Monokuma seems completely unbothered by their refusal this time. The next day, Kyoko confirms that everything was calm, but insists on a little house rule. No using Alter Ego without permission. People going in and out of the bathhouse all the time would be too suspicious, and she calls out Hifumi specifically. That poor AI. Kiyotaka, still nearly catatonic, visits Makoto and asks him to help him visit Chihiro. Makoto tries to explain that it isn't Chihiro, it's Alter Ego, but he is barely responsive, so he figures it won't really stick anyway. Kyoko literally just told them not to visit Alter Ego without good reason, but he feels bad for Kiyotaka, so heck it. Kiyotaka asks Alter if he hates Mondo, and because he wasn't able to stop Mondo, does Alter hate him? Alter says he believes that Chihiro wouldn't hate him and would want him to escape and live life to the fullest. Then he adapts Mondo's persona and gives Kiyotaka a pep talk, and I hope he regrets it, because I do. Kiyotaka goes, he goes Super Saiyan. I have no idea why. His hair goes white, his eyes begin to glow red, and his personality becomes a kind of mix of his and Mondo's, which means a lot of yelling, now peppered with a lot of cussing. But that cussing is still like baby's first curse word. For example, he calls Makoto a dumb butt. The next morning, they all gather together in the dressing room. Kyoko caught Hifumi accessing Alter again without permission, describing him as hugging the laptop and breathing strangely. Alter Ego, I'm so sorry for you, you sweet child. A feud forms between Kiyotaka and Hifumi over Alter. Hifumi thinks of Alter as a girl who he has fallen in love with because Alter listens to him talk about his hobbies and doesn't go, please let me leave. And Kiyotaka thinks of Alter as Chihiro, as the person who revitalized him and reunited him with his best bro in the white-hot heat of friendship. His words, not mine. Kyoko's like, you're both stupid. Chihiro left Alter for all of us as a way to help us escape. Sakura threatens to beat the ass of anybody who messes with Alter again, and they reluctantly agree. The next night, Makoto finds a letter under his door asking him to meet in the dining hall. He notes that the handwriting is really quite good. Turns out it belongs to Yasuhiro, who says he was raised to believe that if you had bad penmanship, a ghost would haunt you. Crap. Yasuhiro brings Makoto to the bathhouse for a late-night bath sesh, which is all a guise set up by Kyoko to gather the students at the bathhouse once more. She says Alter Ego has gone missing, and because he was instructed to yell if he encountered somebody that he didn't recognize, she assumes that the person who took him is one of the students. But it couldn't be either of the two likely suspects because she told Alter to yell if Kiyotaka or Hifumi specifically showed up. Byakuya proposes that one of the students is a spy and took Alter for the masturbot. Nobody wants to believe this, and not too much discussion about the possibility can take place because Kiyotaka and Hifumi start freaking out. Kyoko manages to calm them down by pointing out that if whoever took Alter wanted to harm him, they wouldn't have bothered taking him from the room. The next morning, only Hina, Sakura, and Kyoko show up for breakfast. Toko and Byakuya aren't a concern, but Kiyotaka and Celeste haven't missed a day. Kiyotaka showed up even when he was basically catatonic. So the group split up to search, and Makoto hears Hina calling for help up on the 3rd floor. She found Celeste alive, but bruised and battered in the rec room. She heads off to gather the others, while Celeste explains to Makoto that she was attacked by who she describes as some sort of strange, suspicious individual. She points to a hammer on the floor, which is painted a bright blue, and has the words Justice Hammer 1 on it, and said that the man attacked her with it. She dodged the blow, but fell, which caused her injuries. Hina returns with Sakura, and Celeste gives more detail. She woke up just before the morning announcement and decided to go for a walk around the 1st floor. She noticed a strange man and followed him to the rec room. She was spotted by him and attacked. Apparently, her dodge attempt not only battered her, but knocked her unconscious. But she insists that the attack took place just after the morning announcement, meaning she had been passed out for about an hour. Hina's like, well, golly, it's great that you made it out relatively unharmed, and Celeste says that's because she begged for her life, offering to lick his boots. They're amazed that she, of all people, would throw away her pride like that. But you know what I'm amazed by? How she could beg for her life while unconscious? Seriously, what is this sequence of events? She went in, got attacked, dodged, which caused her to pass out, and she was unconscious until just before she was discovered, but also begged for her life when? Celeste says that the strange man also attacked Hifumi in the rec room, and she shows them a photo she took using Hifumi's hand-me-down camera. It shows him being grabbed by someone in a robot costume, which is so much more confusing because she took that photo after she was attacked. How many things can Celeste do while she's unconscious? Jeez. Celeste says that when he left the rec room, he went left, meaning that he was headed towards the 2nd floor, which is where Kyoko went to search. Panicked by the idea that Kyoko could run into the man any minute, they rush off to find her and immediately run into Byakuya and Jill. They recruit the duo for their search, and Sakura says she heard something in the library, where they find Hifumi. He has a bleeding head wound, but he's alive and standing. He says Robo-Justice, which is what he decided to call him just now, hit him with a hammer. It's laying on the floor and is labeled Justice Hammer 2. And it's slightly bigger than the first. Celeste shows him the picture, and he confirms that the man in the photo attacked him as well. Shocking revelation, I know. They take Hifumi to the nurse's office on the 1st floor, clean him up, and get his account. He woke up early and began to search for Alter ahead of everybody else. He went to the 3rd floor and was attacked in the rec room before being dragged to the library and whacked with the hammer. This is estimated to be around 7:30, which gives Kyoko, Makoto, Hina, and Sakura alibis as they were all gathered together in the dining hall at that time. Byakuya was doing his laundry at the time, and unfortunately for him, Jill was spying on him at the time, so they both have alibis. This just leaves Yasuhiro and Kiyotaka, who are both still missing. They leave Hifumi to rest and are in the middle of debating how they want to resume the search when Celeste says she spotted a shadow at the top of the stairs, so they all hurry to the second floor. Celeste suggests that they split up and try to corner Robo Justice. Sakura tells the group to yell if they find him and she'll come running to help. And Celeste gives an example of the scream she wants to use, but the group is like, just any scream will do. After a little searching, Celeste does her weird little scream, which summons Makoto. Hina, Byakuya, and Jill turn to Toko to the third floor. She says she saw Robo Justice, but because she was blocking the stairs, he went further down the hallway. However, they hear a scream from the first floor and realize that must be Hifumi, who they left alone in the nurse's office. Since they can't capture Robo Justice and help Hifumi at the same time, Celeste proposes they split into 2 groups and asks Makoto and Hina to come with her to the nurse's office while Byakuya, Toko, and Sakura go to capture Robo Justice. In the nurse's office, they find Hifumi on the floor in a large puddle of blood, Justice Hammer number 3 laying beside his body. The body discovery announcement plays. Hina is in shock, and Makoto volunteers to go get the others while Celeste stays with Hina. Makoto finds Sakura, Toko, and Byakuya in the equipment room behind the physics lab, where he also discovers the body of Yotaka, killed by a blow to the head with Justice Hammer number 4. Toko is passed out, having seen the blood, but otherwise she, Byakuya, and Sakura are unharmed. He tells them about Hifumi, and they decide they should all go back to the nurse's office together, but they're only steps out of the physics lab when they bump into Celeste, who says Hifumi's body has gone missing. They return to the nurse's office, and the girls explain that they went to the restroom, but were gone for only a minute. Celeste says the culprit must have carried the body off in that small window, and the normally calm and composed Celeste is having a hard time with this one, saying, quote, "We're all gonna die, we're going to die like those guys died." Sakura tells the girls that Kiyotaka was also murdered, which causes Hina to panic in much the same way that Celeste was panicking. Then they realize that they left Toko passed out by Kiyotaka's body, so they rush back to the equipment room and discover that Kiyotaka's body has also gone missing. Toko is exactly how and where they left her. Byakuya points out that the only possible suspect that is left is Yasuhiro, as they can all alibi each other for both murders and the body snatching. He also points out that there won't be any more murders, as there's a regulation in place against killing more than 2 people, so now they can safely begin their investigation. After tutting around for a little bit, Celeste and Byakuya track Makoto down and tell him that Celeste found the bodies in the repository. Upon entering the room, the body discovery announcement plays once again, and Monokuma pops up to give them the Monokuma file. Because this needs to happen for plot reasons, Hina gets upset that Byakuya isn't in tears over Hifumi and Kiyotaka's deaths, even though by this point she really should understand that they will die if they don't investigate. And also, by this point, she really should understand that Byakuya is not the type of person to be affected by their deaths. Hello, girl, you were at Chihiro's class trial. So she gets upset, bursts into tears, and cradles Hifumi's body for inexplicable reasons. Some big wet tears land on Hifumi's face and he opens his eyes. He's disoriented and weak, but he's able to utter a few important things. First, quote, "I remember everything. Before I'd met you all, I'd met you all." And second, he says the name of the person who killed him is Yasuhiro. Even though this seems like an open and shut case, they actually do put in the effort to investigate. Quick shout out to Sakura, who remembers the loop-de-loop events of the morning and can summarize them as many times as you need while investigating. She also notes that Kyoko hasn't been seen all morning. This leads the students to suspect that she could be the mastermind spy and possibly in cahoots with Yasuhiro. But there's a rule for cahooters, also known as accomplices, which was established back in the first episode. That rule is that each murder is allowed to have one accomplice, but only the person who deals the killing blow is considered to be blackened and will be offered the right to graduate, meaning that there's really no reason to cahoot. Since they're on a time crunch, they decide to shelf the Kyoko business for now. Evidence 1, the Monokuma file, and he half-assed this one bad. Both victims were killed with a blow to the head, and the weapon used is believed to be similar. That's the whole thing. Evidence 2, blue tarp. Kiyotaka's body is laying on a blue tarp. There is a stack of blue tarps in the equipment room. Evidence 3, Hifumi's glasses. When Hifumi was found in the nurse's office, his glasses were covered in blood, but now that his body is in the repository, his glasses are completely clean. Evidence 4, repository dolly. A dolly, which is used to move statues in the art room, was found in the equipment room, but is now in the repository. There is dried blood on the wheels. Evidence 5, repository hammers. On the wall of the repository, there are a number of wooden mallets in a range of sizes. Multiple of them are missing. Makoto wonders if the justice hammers were modeled after these hammers and finds that all of them have powdered stone on them except for one which is wet. Evidence 6, the repository lock. When the students split up to look for the bodies, Hina and Sakura went to the art room, and at that time, the repository door was locked. It was later found unlocked. It can only be locked from within the repository. Evidence 7, equipment room bloodstain. In the equipment room, there is a large pool of blood which has tire tracks through it. Makoto believes that the dolly was used to move Kiyotaka's body, but that still leaves the question of how Hifumi's considerable girth was moved from the nurse's office on the first floor to the third floor. Evidence 8, Celeste's account. She confirms that because Hina was feeling unwell, she accompanied her to the bathroom, but insists that they were gone for no more than a minute, maybe 2. Evidence 9, blood packs. In the nurse's office is a refrigerator which contains blood packs. Evidence 10, blood-stained cleaning cloth. A glasses cleaning cloth with an anime character on it was found in the trash can of the nurse's office. Evidence 11, Yasuhiro's message. Kyoko had Yasuhiro gather the students in the bathhouse earlier. To do that, he wrote a letter and slipped it under each student's door. Byakuya gives Makoto the letter that Yasuhiro gave to him and tells him that he should go and investigate Yasuhiro's room. Evidence 12, a robo-justice blueprints. Inside Yasuhiro's room, there are boxes with pieces of cardboard as well as plastic and plaster. There are also blueprints for the robo-justice costume with annotations in amateurish handwriting. Hina summons Makoto to the pool on the second floor where Kyoko and Yasuhiro are found. Kyoko says she found Yasuhiro asleep in the locker in the rear of the pool and she woke him up. For his part, Yasuhiro is deeply confused about why he's in a robo-justice costume and he can't get it off. There's a suitcase-style latch lock on the back of the costume. The gathered students spend the next couple of minutes helping Yasuhiro to get the costume off. Hina and Celeste note that the costume is well fitted to Yasuhiro's body type, and with the blueprints found in his room, there is no doubt that Yasuhiro made the costume and wore it to commit the crimes. He, of course, swears it wasn't him, and ends up convincing Hina to try the costume on herself. She says, this thing is horribly designed. You can't see through the mask, you can't bend at the waist, you can't take it off by yourself. But Yasuhiro's got a pretty unique body type among the group, that being a beanpole taller than Byakuya, so the students don't find the flaws in convincing argument against him being the culprit. In fact, they just chop it up to Yasuhiro being a moron. Evidence 13, Yasuhiro's account. He says that someone left a note under his door which read, "I found a hole, maybe we can use it to escape. Monokuma can't find out, so don't tell anybody else for now. Let's meet in the rec room at 1 a.m. He did as instructed because he is the moron his classmates believe him to be, and Kyoko confirms that the nurse's office has chemicals that could be used to knock people out. However, Yasuhiro does not have the letter on him anymore. Makoto helps Kyoko catch up on the case, which nets some new evidence. Evidence 14, Kiyotaka's wristwatch. Kiyotaka always wore a wristwatch, and he was wearing one when he died. It broke at some point, with the hand stopped just past 6 o'clock. The previous day, Kiyotaka berated Makoto for being late to the bathhouse meeting, which took place just before the nighttime announcement, so the time that it stopped working must be 6 a.m., not 6 p.m. Evidence 15, Kiyotaka's torn piece of paper. There's a torn piece of paper clutched in Kiyotaka's hand, but it has no writing on it. Evidence 16, Hifumi's letter. Kyoko found a wad of paper hidden in Hifumi's pants, which Makoto reluctantly reads. It has the same content as the letter Yasuhiro claims to have received, but the meeting time is 6 a.m., and the location is the equipment room. The corner of the letter is ripped. Evidence 17 e-handbooks. Kyoko points out that both Kiyotaka and Hifumi's e-handbooks are still on them, so she believes that they were not essential in the commission of this crime. But she makes sure to point out that it doesn't mean e-handbooks are irrelevant to the case. Little ham-fisted, but okay. The trial opens with the majority of the class attacking Yasuhiro because, yeah, there's a lot of evidence pointing at him. But Makoto points out that while the blueprints were found in Yasuhiro's room, the handwriting on them is messy compared to his excellent ghost-warding penmanship. Celeste proposes that perhaps Yasuhiro intentionally changed his handwriting, which is thwarted by Yasuhiro himself, who declares he is not smart enough to do that. That's a foolproof defense, honestly. Makoto and Byakuya say that, yes, Yasuhiro was the one in the suit. He really is the only one who could wear it, but both of them believe that this is just a frame job. So the discussion moves on to the topic of how Kiyotaka's body was moved, a mystery about as complex as a two-piece jigsaw puzzle. Somebody went to the equipment room where Kiyotaka's body was laying in a pool of blood. They took a tart from the pile in the room, wrapped Kiyotaka's body with it, and used the dolly to cart him to the repository. Celeste asks how he could prove the dolly was used. After all, it's meant to move heavy things between the repository and art room, so why was it in the equipment room to begin with? But, yeah, the tire tracks and the blood stain on the equipment room floor and dried blood on the dolly's wheels? The dolly being used actually exonerates Yasuhiro. The dolly doesn't have handles and must be pushed by the base, and the suit prevents the wearer from bending at the waist. And since you can't take it off by yourself, there's no way that Yasuhiro could be the one to move the body, let alone wrap it in a tarp. Celeste points out that Hifumi implicated Yasuhiro multiple times though. First in the library when he said that Robo Justice attacked him, and again, right before he died for real, he said his attacker was named Yasuhiro. She also has a photo of Hifumi being attacked in the rec room by Robo Justice. Kyoko says, well, how about we consider the murders as two separate events and analyze them, starting with Kiyotaka and his time of death, before or after Hifumi. Hina says, well, duh, Kiyotaka was killed after Hifumi because he was killed with a higher number of Justice Hammer than Hifumi. Unfortunately, we are forced to tear down this solid monument of logic by pointing to Kiyotaka's wristwatch, which broke at 6 a.m. The Justice Hammer's changing its size and number was just a distraction. Kiyotaka's death taking place at 6 a.m. also means that nobody has an alibi for his murder now. They move on to the topic of how Hifumi's body was moved. According to Celeste, she and Hina left the room for no more than 2 minutes, and in that time span, someone was able to move Hifumi's body from the first floor to the third floor. Kyoko suggests that instead of a body being moved, what if Hifumi was still alive and moved himself? And despite the fact that Hifumi woke up and spoke to them briefly, even gave them Yasuhiro's name, the idea that Hifumi was not in fact dead is completely flabbergasting. Celeste points out that he must have been dead as far as Monokuma was concerned because they heard the body discovery announcement when they discovered him in the nurse's office. But Makoto points out that, for reasons of plot convenience, they found Hifumi right as Byakuya and his team found Kiyotaka. They try to quiz Monokuma on whether he would lazily roll the announcement into one if they found two bodies at the same time, but he refuses to say, only reiterating the rule about the body discovery announcement. It's only broadcast when 3 or more people find a dead body for the first time, which solves the puzzle. The announcement was made twice, meaning that one of the bodies was not dead when it was discovered. Kiyotaka's announcement played hilariously conveniently when they found Hifumi's body in the nurse's office, and Hifumi's announcement played when they discovered both bodies in the art repository. Somehow this isn't convincing enough, so Makoto points out the anime-themed cleaning cloth he found in the nurse's office trash. The character on it matches the character on Hifumi's camera, which links the cloth to him. Hifumi's glasses were clean when they found his body in the repository, and it makes no sense that the culprit would bother cleaning the glasses of a dead body. The assumption then becomes that Hifumi took a blood packet from the refrigerator in the nurse's office to fake his injuries and played dead. After the students found him and left, he got up, cleaned his glasses, went to the equipment room, and moved Kiyotaka's body. Hifumi wasn't just a victim, he was an assailant. Additional proof is the letter which Kyoko found hidden on his body. The letter belongs to Kiyotaka, as proven by the torn piece that Kiyotaka had in his death grip. Additionally, Kiyotaka's watch broke at around 6 a.m., which is the time mentioned in the letter. Yasuhiro actually does something useful and steers the conversation to the topic of murder weapons. The Monokuma file points out that both boys were killed with similar weapons, but the justice hammers were left in the nurse's office and equipment room.
So if Hifumi was killed in the repository, the culprit would have had to grab one of the hammers, kill Hifumi, then put the hammer back where they found it. But wouldn't that be seriously risky for him?
I'm surprised. It seems there's some semblance of a brain knocking around that skull of yours after all.
Hell yeah, it's packed in there good and tight.
Makoto found a hammer in the repository that was wet. He suggests that it was used to kill Hifumi and then cleaned off. The discussion then comes back around to accomplices. The rule makes it impossible for an accomplice to benefit, so why would Hifumi have willingly worked with somebody else? He was dumb, but he wasn't that dumb. Kyoko says, well, if there was only the one murder, sure, but there were two. She proposes that the true culprit of the case recruited Hifumi by saying that they would act as each other's accomplices to commit two separate murders. Hifumi agreed and killed Kiyotaka, but was then betrayed by his collaborator in the repository. Makoto accuses Celeste of being the collaborator, and she refutes the claim by saying,
the idea that I would choose to spend any amount of time interacting with him, that I would go within 10 feet of that shit for brains, that lazy, worthless, goddamn idiot! Pardonnez-moi.
Celeste interacting with Hifumi isn't as impossible as she might like it to be. Not long after the first class trial, during the breakfast meeting, she made Hifumi prepare her milk tea, but he made the absolutely amateurish, unforgivable error of adding the milk after he brewed the tea. She smashed the teacup off the wall and lectured him about the differences of adding the milk before or after the brewing process. Hifumi tried to stand up to her unreasonable demands, but then, much like she did in that previous clip, she snapped at him and called him a swine. After which, Hifumi gleefully rushed off to make the tea the way she wanted, calling himself her little piggy. Byakuya also points out that there's something that only Hifumi and Celeste have in common in the case. They're the only ones who saw Robo-Justice firsthand. Right after they took Hifumi to the nurse's office, Celeste claimed to have seen a shadow moving around the top of the stairs, which lured them all to the second floor. Then she lured them to the third floor by screaming her a weird-ass scream, and when they arrived, she said she saw Robo-Justice run down the hallway. Then they heard Hifumi screaming from the nurse's office, so Celeste proposed that they split into groups of 3. These seemingly coincidental events come together as a plot if Celeste is working with Hifumi. Byakuya also highlights the strange scream, saying that she told Hifumi that that specific scream was essentially a all is going according to plan and we're on the 3rd floor. If the evidence to this point wasn't damning enough, the writers decided that that thing they did back in episode 2 was so cool and they wanted to do it again. You know, how they had Mondo slip up and call Chihiro a dude? Well, Celeste, right after finding Hifumi's body, said, we're all gonna die here, we're going to die just like those guys died. Of course, she couldn't mean those guys as in Junko, Sayaka, Leon, Chihiro, Mondo, and Hifumi, or if you want to be strict with the dudes part, Chihiro, Mondo, and Hifumi. No. She clearly meant Hifumi and Kiyotaka, and she shouldn't have known about Kiyotaka's death at that time. I'm not up on my Japanese or like any Japanese. The only words I know are ones my brother taught me mnemonics for, like octopus is like tacos, because taco is the Japanese word for octopus. See, bro, I remembered. So anyway, I have no idea if the Japanese version of this is actually more solid evidence, but in the English version, this is just really silly. Like, I get that Celeste is more prim and proper than your average teen, but as with Mondo, I'm not sure anybody would really think twice about her using those guys. Celeste tells them they're all dumb. After all, she took a picture of Robo Justice attacking Hifumi, and only Yasuhiro could fit in the Robo Justice costume, so neener. Kyoko suggests that the photo doesn't depict Hifumi being attacked and dragged away, but rather Hifumi dragging Robo Justice, aka Yasuhiro, away. Celeste tries to refute this by pointing out that Robo Justice is standing upright. If Hifumi was dragging an unconscious Yasuhiro away, how was he standing up? The answer should be pretty obvious at this point, as it's the same reason as why it couldn't have been Yasuhiro who moved Kiyotaka's body. It doesn't bend at the waist. In fact, that flaw was likely intentional so this exact scenario could take place. Celeste loses her cool, collected demeanor and brings up Hifumi's dying words, Yasuhiro. This obviously points to Yasuhiro Hagakure, but Kyoko brings up the fact that Hifumi always referred to his classmates by their last name. So when he said Yasuhiro, he was probably using that person's last name. Remember way back in the first 20 minutes of the game when Makoto gave Celeste guff about her name? Yep, that was all set up for this. Also, this is why they ham-fisted in that bit with Kyoko saying, remember e-handbooks exist, but they aren't necessary to commit the crime. But remember they exist, okay? Celeste refuses to show her e-handbook, of course, so Makoto uses the same logic he did with Mondo. Lay out the events, and that'll force them to cooperate. Celeste and Hifumi agreed to act as each other's accomplices in 2 separate murders. However, Celeste planned to betray Hifumi from the beginning. She assigned him the murder of Kiyotaka, and they plotted to frame Yasuhiro for both murders. Hifumi uses his talent as the ultimate fanfic creator to make a cosplay costume of one of his favorite anime characters, Robo Justice, that he designed to Yasuhiro's specification. The suit was specifically designed to ensure that the person in it couldn't bend at the waist. They also took a couple of the hammers from the repository and painted them blue and gray, and labeled them Justice Hammer 1 through 4. As the size increased, the number did as well. Then, Hifumi penned 2 letters. One to Yasuhiro requesting him to come to the rec room at 1 a.m., and another to Kiyotaka requesting him to come to the equipment room at 6 a.m. Armed with, presumably, chloroform from the nurse's office, Celeste and Hifumi knock Yasuhiro unconscious when he arrives and stuff him into the Robo Justice costume. Hifumi propped Robo Justice on his back and posed to make it look like he was being attacked. Celeste, using the hand-me-down digital camera given to her by Hifumi, snapped a picture for her to use as a red herring. Hifumi hid the unconscious Robo Justice in the locker in the rear of the pool room and then waited for Kiyotaka to come to the equipment room. Using Justice Hammer number 4, Hifumi killed Kiyotaka in the equipment room. His watch broke during the attack, frozen at just past 6 a.m. Hifumi intentionally leaves Justice Hammer 4 at the scene to create confusion on the kill order. He tries to take the letter that Kiyotaka was still clutching, but a scrap is torn off in the process. Celeste waits in the rec room with Justice Hammer number 1 until Hina discovers her at 8 a.m. She tells the students that she was attacked by Robo Justice just after 7 a.m. and was passed out until just now. She says she saw Hifumi being attacked by Robo Justice and snapped a picture of it. From there, she begins to lure them to and fro, starting with the second floor. They discover Hifumi in the library, covered in blood. Justice Hammer 2 is laying on the floor beside him. They take Hifumi to the nurse's office, and Celeste quickly directs the group back to the second floor. They decide to split up, but before they do, Sakura tells the students that if there's any trouble, just yell and she'll come running. This is when Celeste establishes her a very strange scream as the sound she'll make if she needs help. She uses said scream to summon the students up to the third floor, claiming she saw Robo Justice retreat into the back of the floor because she was blocking the stairs. Hifumi, in the nurse's office, fakes his own death by placing Justice Hammer 3 on the ground and covering himself with blood from a blood packet he took from the refrigerator in the nurse's office. Upon hearing Celeste's bizarre scream, which she previously established as a sign to him that she had successfully lured the students to the third floor, Hifumi screamed from the nurse's office. The students recognize his voice and Celeste suggests and they split into groups of 3, specifically requesting that Hina and Makoto go with her to check on Hifumi, while Byakuya, Toko, and Sakura follow Robo Justice. This allows the 2 teams to discover Kiyotaka's body in the equipment room and Hifumi's body in the nurse's office. Still hilariously coincidental for such a supposed mastermind plot. This causes the body discovery announcement to play, fooling the students into believing that Hifumi is actually dead. Also relying entirely on something completely out of control, Hina is so shocked by Hifumi's murder that she doesn't think she can move, which enables Celeste to stay behind with her, while Makoto was sent to find the others. While Makoto is gone, Hina and Celeste go to the bathroom. Hifumi gets up, cleans his glasses off, and discards the cloth in the trash can in the nurse's office. He hides it somewhere and waits. Meanwhile, Makoto finds the students and Kiyotaka's body in the equipment room. Because Toko was in Toko mode and not Jill mode, which she was in but conveniently switched during all the running up and down Hope's Peak, she passed out upon discovering Kiyotaka's body. Makoto tells Sakura and Byakuya about Hifumi, and they all decide to go to the nurse's office together. Toko is left unconscious in the equipment room. Celeste bumps into them as they're leaving the physics lab and tells them that Hifumi's body has also gone missing. After the students clear out of the 3rd floor, Hifumi heads up there, wraps Kiyotaka's body in a tarp, and carts him to the repository with the dolly. Thankfully for him, neither Toko nor Jill wake up during this process. The students realize they left Toko unconscious while a murderer is roaming about, so they hurry to the equipment room once again. Toko is still passed out and unharmed, but Kiyotaka's body is now missing. The students split up to search for the missing bodies. During this time, Celeste meets up with Hifumi in the repository, where she kills him with an unpainted hammer. She washes it off, replaces it, then tells Byakuya that she found the bodies in the repository. Hifumi, possibly as a result of being clubbed in the head, remembered that he'd met Celeste before and that her last name was Yasuhiro. So when he regained consciousness for a few moments, he was able to tell them. Makoto's gambit pays off, and Celeste admits that her real name is Teiko Yasuhiro. She is voted and confirmed to be the mastermind. Celeste poo-poos on Hifumi, but honestly, her plan fell apart because of her. She's the one that made that verbal slip in the nurse's office. She's the one who decided she had to be the one to find the bodies in the repository. Also, the game never reckons with the plot hole that she herself digs within moments of setting her plan into motion. According to her own testimony, she does multiple things while she's supposed to be unconscious, including snapping a photo. She reveals that she used Alter as the bait because it's the one thing that both Kiyotaka and Hifumi were obsessed with. However, she is careful during her explanation not to be specific enough that Monokuma can figure out what's going on, since, you know, they're having this conversation within like feet of it. Celeste stole Alter, placed the laptop in Kiyotaka's room, and snapped photos of it. Then she hid Alter and waited until it was discovered that he was missing. After the meeting about it, she visited Hifumi and showed him the picture before deleting it. She claims that Kiyotaka forced her to steal Alter for him, since Alter had instructions to yell if Kiyotaka or Hifumi interacted with him. I don't know why she chose to use this following excuse, given Kiyotaka is literally the ultimate moral compass, but she claims that Kiyotaka showed up to her room unannounced, threatened her, and, these are her words, abused me. Then she digs another plot hole. She claims that Kiyotaka took photos after abusing her and threatened to show everybody, but with what camera? The one that she's currently holding? Why would he let her keep the camera that has the blackmail on it? This ignites a righteous nightly fire within Hifumi, but even though she probably has him on board, Celeste does what Celeste does best and pushes it even further. She tells him that Kiyotaka is planning to kill him to graduate. As for motivation, it was a combination of the $10 million and a desire to escape. Despite how often Celeste told others they need to adapt to their new life, that they had it pretty good all things considered, she was lying. Ever since Monokuma revealed that they were trapped, she's been thinking only of how to escape. She found every day to be torture. Why? Because she has a dream. That dream? To own a gothic castle which she plans to fill with handsome men cosplaying as vampires, which will wait on her every need. And no, I am not being hyperbolic about any part of that. Celeste gives Kyoko a locker key and heads off to her execution, which is titled The Burning of the Versailles Witch. I guess this is a stab at her gothic appearance. That, or France was hardcore at punishing gamblers. She is, predictably, burned at a stake, but before she can die from that, Monokuma crashes a fire truck into her. I'm not sure Celeste would appreciate the irony. After the execution, Monokuma tries to get Kyoko to tell him what's up with the key that Celeste gave him, but she says she'll only tell him if he'll tell her what he did to her. Obviously, he refuses this by making it awkward and then dips defeated. Makoto and Kyoko go to the bathhouse, revealing all are safe and sound. He says he's close to accessing the last batch of files. Makoto takes this opportunity to quiz Kyoko about where she was for like 75% of the case. She is reluctant to tell him and says she understands if he, like Byakuya, thinks she's a Monokuma spy. But Makoto says he believes in her because they're friends and he wants her to believe in him too. This works, so she reveals what she's been doing. Makoto finds what she says so unbelievable that he wants to confirm it for himself, so he waits until nighttime, sneaks out of his room, and goes to investigate. See, Kyoko discovered that the second floor boys' bathroom doesn't have a surveillance camera or a monitor, so she investigated the bathroom and discovered a hidden room in the back of the janitor's closet. Putting the numerous ethical questions of this aside, the hidden room is relatively bare, but it has a desk and a bookcase which is stuffed with files. And a tissue box. Makoto notes that most of the files are covered in dust, but one file is clean, the Hope's Peak Academy student registry. He picks it up and out falls a note which reads, "You must not leave." Big Mac gets a little deja vu about the phrase, but before he can really process it, he is clubbed over the head by a mysterious gray figure. But it's not the same figure as used by the game when you aren't supposed to know who the person is. This person is wearing a black bodysuit, a mask with a large grin, and Monokuma's red eyes, a symbol on the forehead, as well as a white coat. This is the mastermind themselves. When Makoto wakes up, the room is ransacked. They left the tissues though. Makoto isn't exactly having a fun time with his little concussion, and he shambles his way towards his room, but as he's passing by the gym on his way to the dormitory, he hears something. He peeks in and sees Sakura and Monokuma in a fight. After some generic anime fight back and forth, Monokuma says that trying to beat his ass wasn't a part of their deal, to which Sakura says she's decided she's through compromising and retreating. She's going to resist him. Monokuma threatens the hostage he's holding captive, and then, bam, end of chapter. Thankfully, Makoto doesn't die in his sleep from his severe concussion, and he decides that he needs to confront Sakura about whatever it is that he saw in the gym. But to avoid riling up the rest of the students, he wants to talk to her about it alone. Good luck with that. Hina is glued to that girl like a puppy. Kyoko reminds everyone that they still have to search all of the new areas, and they still have Alter, which cheers everybody up. Yasuhiro also pitches in and says he predicted that there would be no more murders. What was that again? A 30% success rate? Better than nothing. He also tells a truly bizarre story about his hamburger being abducted by aliens, but then they sent it back because it wasn't 100% beef, and no, I am not kidding. The fourth floor is open to them now, which gives them access to the music room, the staff room, the chemistry lab, the data processing room, and the headmaster's office. But those last two are locked. Monokuma adds a new rule, which is that you aren't allowed to break down locked doors. Yes, surprisingly, that was not a rule until just now. In the music room, Makoto has a chance to talk to Kyoko about what happened in the hidden room she showed him. He tells her that he was attacked and that all of the files were gone after he woke up, and Kyoko admits that she thought that the mastermind might attack him, though the fact that they stole all of the files means that there must have been something important in them. Makoto's like, "Girl, you suspected that they might attack me? Hello?" To which she says, he can handle that. He's a boy after all. What the Kyoko, you know the mastermind is perfectly comfortable killing people. She then asks him what exactly he's hiding. They're friends, so they should trust each other after all, just like he said. But even though you as a player are given an option to tell her or not, Makoto flatly refuses to tell her because he lacks hard evidence, which is fine, but we know Kyoko well enough to know that she isn't just gonna freak out or act rashly. Literally just tell her what you saw and what Sakura said, that she's going to resist Monokuma, and that you want to get some more evidence before you accuse her of anything. She would 100% be on board with that, you dum-dum. But no, he just refuses, and this hypocrisy upsets Kyoko, starting the Kyoko's pissed at Makoto arc of the game. And while I understand why she's upset, I do think they go on with it for a little bit too long. Anyway, in the office, Makoto finds another photo, this one of Hifumi, Celeste, and Sayaka. Like the previous picture, everybody seems to be happy, and the clear blue sky can be seen through the windows. And just like before, Monokuma snatches the photo, but this time he stays around long enough to claim that it is not a forgery that he created. In the chem lab, Sakura and Hina are over the moon because there are all sorts of supplements, including, quote, Coinosaur-grade protein drinks. These are stored on the same shelf as deadly chemicals. But hey, at least the shelf is sectioned and sorted, right? By the time they're done investigating all of the new areas, Alter has finished cracking the files. He says there's talk of a plan to isolate Hope's Peak, sealing the students inside so they can live peaceful, communal lives until the day they die, and that this plan was crafted by the administration of Hope's Peak. And the reason for this plan has to do with the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history, also known as the tragedy, which is what I'm going to call it because what the hell is that name? Did they interview a toddler and decide that was the winning soundbite? Jeez. This event occurred a year ago, but Alter doesn't know any details about it. Alter says that the headmaster of Hope's Peak, a man in his mid-30s, was the author of the plan, and so he is likely the one puppeteering Monokuma, and therefore must be somewhere within the school. Kyoko is impacted by this more than any of the other students and swears that no matter the cost, she's going to find the headmaster. Everybody's like, whoa, where did that emotion come from? You're usually as expressive as a chia pet. She says she doesn't know, but she has to find the headmaster. The next morning, Makoto tries to set up a meeting with Sakura so they can talk in private about the whole she's Monokuma's spy thing, but Sakura puts the meeting off until the next day, saying that she's feeling worn down. But that night, everybody is summoned to the gym by Monokuma, who, out of spite, reveals that Sakura is his spy. He also says that he may cash in on the promise they made, or, something bad might happen to the hostage, and then he dips. Sakura confirms that he's telling the truth, which puts her in a bit of an awkward spot, to say the least. Hina says that Monokuma must have forced her to be his spy somehow, and Makoto vouches for her. Monokuma did mention a hostage, and during the fight in the gym, he heard Sakura say she was going to fight back against Monokuma. But as Byakuya points out, it could easily just be a double bluff, and all part of the headmaster's grand plan to spice things up. They cannot ever 100% trust Sakura again. He asks Sakura to tell them the mastermind's identity, but she claims that she doesn't know. And then he asks what was the promise she made with Monokuma. And unsurprisingly, it's that when asked to, she'll kill somebody to keep the game going. But Sakura insists she'll take responsibility. How? By trying to kill Monokuma in a fight. She apologizes for not telling everybody, and the next day she doesn't join them for breakfast. But Toko and Byakuya do, which they say is entirely for safety in numbers. This leads to a fight between Hina and Byakuya, who slaps him, declares that he's a monster, and that, quote, it should have been you should have been the one to die. Byakuya asks if that means she intends to make that the case, and Hina, thinking he's mocking her, it's Byakuya he definitely is, asks if he thinks she couldn't do it. Kyoko points out that they're both falling for Monokuma's trap. Sure, he revealed that Sakura was his spy out of spite, but it's also his next motive. And they're doing exactly what Sakura wouldn't want them to do. Hina leaves, and Byakuya mocks her some more. In response, Kyoko tells him that his mocking attitude and dismissal of people's feelings is going to come around and bite him. At breakfast the morning after, Hina is attacked by Jill just moments before Makoto arrives, but thankfully she's only nicked in the arm. Yasuhiro and Makoto bring her to the nurse's office and patch her up. She says they were arguing and she lost her temper, but it's just because Toko is the worst. She's not wrong. Yasuhiro says, well, it's probably because of her complicated home life. And this has to do with something that Toko said the day after Alter gave his last report. She'd joined them for breakfast, which she hadn't done since the first days of being trapped, and when it came time to eat, she said she was nervous because she's always eaten by herself, even when she was a kid. Yasuhiro asked her about her family, and she says, well, yeah, I used to live with my dad, my mom, and my mom. And for whatever reason, Yasuhiro thinks the extra mom thing is like a pivotal development blockage for Toko, but isn't the implication that she had all this extra family but still ate by herself a bit more concerning, Yasuhiro? Girl might have been Harry Potter. Hina's like, well, who gives a crap? She still sucks. Sakura enters the nurse's office and is absolutely pissed that Hina was hurt because of her. She terrifies Hiro out of the room right as Kyoko arrives. She declares she's drawing a line right here and now and leaves with Hina chasing after her. Well, that's horribly awkward and uncomfortable. And now Makoto's left alone with Kyoko, who has been avoiding him wherever possible and making jabs at him whenever it's not. Kyoko acknowledges that Makoto was trying to do the right thing, but also accuses him of being arrogant and ultimately showing that he doesn't trust her, but she says she's already forgotten about it. So they move on. Besides, they have something more important to do. Alter Ego wants to be connected to the school network so he can continue to help them. He's aware that he's putting himself at risk of being discovered by the mastermind, but he wants to fight alongside his friends. Makoto and Kyoko were swayed by this, and Makoto hides the laptop under his hoodie, taking it to the secret room where he was previously clubbed in the head. Where, apparently, there's just a drawer full of cables, including a network cable that the mastermind didn't make off with. And what kind of a beast of a laptop is this? This thing is running an ultra-advanced AI on battery power? Gee. All they can do now is wait and pray that Alter will find the clue. Kyoko hopes that if they can do that, they can defuse the whole situation with Sakura. The next morning, Hina is in a total panic and summons Kyoko and Makoto to the rec room. Peeking through the window in the door, Makoto sees Sakura seated in a chair, her head slumped. The door won't open, but Kyoko points out that the rec room door doesn't have a lock. Therefore, the rule against breaking down locked doors shouldn't apply. Makoto smashes the window, reaches through, and manages to move the chair that is blocking the door. He rushes to Sakura's side, but she's already going cold. There's a strange smile on her face. The body discovery announcement confirms their fears. Standing in the doorway, Hina is shocked, muttering to herself in total disbelief. She snaps back to reality and goes to get the others. Once they're all gathered, Hina proclaims that the murderer must be Yasuhiro, Toko, or Byakuya because they all hated Sakura. And I won't be mentioning this as much as she does, so just know that she will be insisting this a lot throughout the whole case and generally making things difficult for everybody, especially for those that she's accusing. Monokuma hands over the Monokuma file, and before he can leave, Makoto accuses him of killing Sakura in the duel that she was going to challenge him to. But Monokuma says that she never followed through, which he's grateful for because he was worried about actually having to fight her. Now Mondo, and more tragically Sakura-less, they need a new pair of guards. Hina volunteers, and Byakuya orders Kyoko to be the second guard, declaring that she's always a thorn in his side during these investigations, so he wants to keep her out of the way. Surprisingly, Kyoko agrees to this. Hina then threatens to attack the accused three if they set foot in the crime scene, so Byakuya makes a compromise. Toko and Yasuhiro are banned, but he's allowed to investigate. They're useless anyway, and they kinda have to investigate or they're all dead. Kyoko convinces Hina to agree to Byakuya's terms. The investigation begins. Since the rec room was locked with the chair and there's only one entrance to the room, Kyoko decides Makoto needs a crash course on locked room mysteries. She states there are 4 types. The locked room is created after the crime is committed. Some special trick is deployed to lock the room after the culprit has left. The locked room existed before the crime was committed. The culprit commits the crime from outside of the room while it is locked. The culprit stays in the room until it is unlocked. Once the room is unlocked and the crime is discovered, the culprit uses the confusion to blend in with the group. And the locked room wasn't actually locked, meaning an alternate escape route is available but well hidden, so it just seems like a locked room at first. Evidence 1, the Monokuma file. Sakura was killed at noon with her body being found in the rec room on the 3rd floor. There is evidence of a strong blow to the victim's head. No other injuries were noted. However, at some point, she suffered from violent vomiting of blood. That phrasing, Evidence 2, status of Sakura's body. There are traces of blood on Sakura's lip, suggesting that she vomited up blood not long before she died. There is a yellow powder on the top of Sakura's shoes. Kyoko points out that though it seems like she was struck only once upon first glance, actually she received 2 blows to her head. Additionally, both of Sakura's hands are spotless. Evidence 3, candy wrapper. There is a white wrapper with red polka dots on it laying on the floor by Sakura's body. Hina says there was a large box of candies with that style of wrapper in the warehouse. She liked them, so she took the entire box to her room so nobody else could have any. After the incident with Jill, Hina gave Sakura one of the candies because she wanted her to try it and she thought it'd calm her down. Evidence 4, red shards of glass. Behind Sakura, there are large shards of red glass as well as a top and the bottom of a bottle. Evidence 5, Monokuma Knight chess piece. Beside the broken glass laying on the floor is a figure of Monokuma holding a knight chess piece. Evidence 6, Monokuma figurine bottles. Against the wall behind Sakura is a cabinet with 4 large red glass bottles on it. Inside of the bottles are Monokuma chess piece figurines. The figures on display are pawn, rook, bishop, and king. Evidence 7, rec room locker. Near the cabinet is a single locker. The door is open and there are handprints on the inside of the door. Makoto recalls that the locker was sitting open when they looked in through the rec room window before breaking in, so the culprit couldn't have hidden inside of it until they entered. Evidence 8, magazine rack bloodstain. There is a sizable bloodstain on the floor in front of the magazine rack. Evidence 9, Hina's account. Hina left the nurse's office with Sakura, but Sakura eventually went off all on her own. When she returned, she told Hina that she left notes for Yasuhiro, Toko, and Byakuya and asked them to meet her in the rec room by noon because she wanted to talk to each one of them. Evidence 10, Byakuya's account. He acknowledges that he received Sakura's letter, but he discarded it and didn't go. He says he never encountered Sakura that morning. Evidence 11, protein drink container. In front of the rec room door is a plastic container labeled Protein Enzyme X Chema A2. The container is laying atop of the shattered glass from the window that Makoto broke. Evidence 12, rec room door. The door is the only way in or out of the rec room. It doesn't have a lock and it was jammed shut by a chair. There is no evidence that the door or the mountings were tampered with and no signs of anything that could have been used to lock the door from the outside. Evidence 13, Toko's account. She acknowledges that she received Sakura's note but claims that she didn't go because she was too scared. Evidence 14, Yasuhiro's account. He claims that he received the note, but was given it in person by Sakura, who mentioned inviting Toko and Byakuya. He claims he didn't go to meet with her, but Makoto is suspicious because Yasuhiro is shit at lying. He asks to see Yasuhiro's note. He digs around in his pockets looking for it, but says he doesn't have it anymore. But he does drop a white and red polka dot candy wrapper on the floor. Yasuhiro reacts like this is the equivalent of dropping a literally smoking gun on the floor, promptly tries to play it cool, and says he just forgot to throw out that little, not at all suspicious piece of trash. Evidence 17, chemical shelf. In the chemistry lab, there is a large shelf separated into 3 sections, labeled A through C. Section A contains dietary supplements, and all of the bottles are labeled A with a number. There is a bottle from Section C sitting on the shelf. Section B contains reagents, aka substances used to create chemical reactions. All of the bottles are labeled B and have a number. Section C contains lethal chemicals. All of the bottles are labeled C with a number. Evidence 15, spilled powder. There's a huge spill of powder in front of the chemical shelf. There are footprints in the powder in front of Section A. Evidence 16, a broken chemical bottle. The source of the spill is a broken bottle. It's laying in front of the shelf labeled C, and the label on the bottle reads Chem C4 with a large red skull and crossbones on it. Byakuya says he was in the chem lab this morning and the bottle wasn't broken at that time. Byakuya makes Makoto sketch out the floor plan of the chem lab and it is surprisingly decent. However, it's questionably useful, but hey, maybe the writers remembered that the students don't actually have cameras this time. Byakuya notes that the footprints are exclusively in front of Section A. He then compares Makoto's shoe size to those in the powder and determines that he didn't make them as his feet are too large. Makoto returns to the rec room and updates Kyoko on what he discovered. She asks him to help her with a little experiment by having him gather up all of the broken glass behind Sakura while she retrieves a scale from the chemical lab. This gives us evidence 17, broken bottle experiment. She compares the weight of 2 of the Monokuma bottles and they are the same weight. But when they compare the weight of all the pieces collected by Makoto to a regular bottle, the broken pieces weigh more. Kyoko suggests that Makoto actually investigate the magazine rack itself, given that there's, a bloodstain in front of it, which gives us evidence 18, upside down magazine. One of the magazines is upside down, so Makoto investigates it and finds Toko written in blood on one of the pages. Kyoko assures Makoto that she put it back exactly the way that she found it. Hina thinks this is foolproof evidence, but Makoto thinks it's just a little too obvious and convenient. Off we go to the class trial, which starts with Hina obnoxiously declaring that it was Byakuya, Toko, or Yasuhiro who did it. again, which completely ignores the evidence she pointed at as conclusive proof that Toko did it. Makoto points out that Yasuhiro had a wrapper from the candy which only Hina and Sakura had access to. This forces him to admit that he met with Sakura in the rec room, but he swears that he only talked with her. And he points the finger at Toko, whose name was written in blood inside of the magazine. However, Yasuhiro shouldn't be able to know about that message because Hina refused to let Toko and Yasuhiro into the crime scene, so he couldn't have seen the message coincidentally during the investigation. Not to mention, the magazine was closed and on the rack. Kyoko believes that Yasuhiro wrote Toko in the magazine himself. Everybody assumed that it was a dying message from Sakura, but there are no traces of blood on Sakura's hands. Yasuhiro confirms that he did and goes on to explain how he killed Sakura. He went to the rec room and found Sakura alone. She asked him to wait because she invited Byakuya and Toko as well. She gave him a piece of the candy that Hina had given her and then, for no discernible reason whatsoever, muttered to herself, quote, "This is it. I'm going to end it today. I'm going to end everything." This scares the bejeebies out of Yasuhiro, who clubs her over the head with the Monokuma bottle. He says she didn't move or anything after he hit her, and he realized that he must have killed her, so he needed to cover his tracks. There was a magazine sitting out on the table, so he used Sakura's blood to write Toko in it and then fled. Yes, that is the extent that he put into his cover-up. Hina wants to just vote for Yasuhiro already, but Kyoko points out that there are a few problems. For example, why was the magazine on the shelf when Yasuhiro said that it was just sitting open on the table? This points to there being somebody else in the rec room before and after the incident, and said person must have cared that Toko was being framed. Well, that kind of exclusively points to Toko herself, doesn't it? Another flaw in Yasuhiro's confession is that he believed he killed Sakura, but she was struck twice. If she was already dead, why was she struck a second time? Kyoko suggests that she was not only struck twice, but much like the previous case, she was struck with the same weapon. This is proven by two things. First, there are two bottles missing from the shelf. The knight piece was found on the floor behind Sakura, but the queen piece and its bottle are both missing. Then there are the results of the little bottle experiment. The Monokuma bottles weigh roughly the same amount, but the shattered bottle that Makoto cleaned up weighs even more.
There's no evidence I had anything to do with it.
No way! You killed her! I'm sure of it!
Shut up! Until 2 seconds ago, you were claiming you killed her.
I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. That's just the kind of guy I am.
You tell her, Yasuhiro. He suddenly remembers that he saw Toko go into the rec room. He had gone earlier than the meet time to scope it out when he saw her enter, and shortly after, he saw Sakura go inside. Don't ask me how Yasuhiro forgot that this happened, since he says that Toko going into the room is why he felt safe to go into the room himself. However, when he went in, he didn't see Toko in the rec room. Makoto points out that the locker in the rec room has handprints all over the inside of the door and says that they must belong to Toko. She continues to refuse until Byakuya remembers that he could make her basically do anything, so he demands she tell him the truth, and she does. She hid in the locker and witnessed the incident with Yasuhiro and him framing her by writing her name in the magazine. So she took the magazine from the table and put it on the rack, but she's a dingbat, and she put it back upside down. Then she turned around and saw Sakura, head bloody from the wound inflicted by Yasuhiro. Of course, now is where her phobia of blood kicks in, not during that initial attack or interacting with the magazine with the bloody message in it, so of course she passes out. Toko forces a sneeze. I don't know, maybe she's got a pepper shaker under her skirt and her little leg holster, don't ask me. And out comes Jill to continue the testimony. Jill says that she and Toko don't actually share memories, so she's a bit fuzzy on what was actually happening. All she knows is she was, quote, sleeping peacefully when somebody shook her awake. It was Sakura, of course, which spooked her, so she struck Sakura on the head with a Monokuma bottle from the shelf nearby. After that, she cleaned up the fragment and chess piece to cover her tracks. Yasuhiro says, quote, but anyway, I'm not the one that killed Ogre, so that's good. And Makoto thinks to himself, bro, Hina is gonna rip you a new one for talking like that? But Hina seems unfazed and says they should just move on to the vote and hang Toko. Jill, I'm guessing Monokuma would treat it as the same, not entirely clear on that point. This is not the first time that Hina has tried to rush everybody into the vote. The pattern is pretty much suspect, talk a little bit about it, vote for them, damn it, point gets disproven. Okay, now vote for them, damn it. And that pattern is going to repeat, as patterns like to do. Byakuya points out that Toko, Jill's stories, the testimony is flawed, damn it. According to Jill, she struck Sakura with the bottle while they were by the magazine rack, but she died while she was sitting in a chair. There's blood by the magazine rack, proving that the attack took place there, so Jill didn't kill Sakura either. There's also the question of the locked room. Jill or Toko couldn't have been hiding in the locker. Makoto saw that it was open and empty when he looked into the locked rec room. But we need to shelf that for now because we need to establish what actually killed Sakura. According to the Monokuma file, Sakura vomited up blood and there's traces of blood on her mouth. Byakuya says the reason for this is that she was poisoned and he whips a little bottle out of his pocket. It's labeled Chem C9 and has a red skull and crossbones on it. He explains the shelves in the chemical lab and how Section A contains supplements and Section C contains poisons, but the bottle he just showed them he found in Section A. The students are like, whoa, no way, how did that happen? Who would do something so risky as to store a blatant bottle of poison among supplements? Byakuya says it was there because the killer swapped it. He then downs the whole bottle. Now, everybody who wants to see Byakuya dead after Chihiro's case, calm down. He just chugged a whole bottle of protein powder, which has to, at least be a choking hazard, but he's fine. The theory is that somebody swapped the protein powder and poison, then whipped up a protein drink and gave it to Sakura. Byakuya points out that there are footprints in the spilled powder in the chem lab, so all they have to do is compare everybody's shoe prints and sizes to the footprints, and they'll have their killer. Hina pulls a Mondo and says, no need. The footprints are mine. Byakuya gleefully says he knew it must have been Hina. The footprints were made by a sneaker, and only she and Makoto wear sneakers. And she was such an eager beaver to get to the vote. And how devilish of Hina using Sakura's trust in her to give her a bottle of poison. Hina says that she stumbled on Sakura after the attack and she asked her for a protein drink, so off to the chem lab Hina went. And then she just had this sudden intrusive thought, what if I just murdered my friend, Dad? So she gave Sakura the poisoned drink and she downed it all at once. Kyoko is unconvinced, but Byakuya tells her to stop thinking about the situation as friends. But that isn't really what Kyoko is getting at. Time to pull the locked room back down off the shelf. She asks Hina, well, if you killed Sakura, how did you create the locked room? Hina flounders and then just refuses to explain. She doesn't see why just because she's the culprit, she has to explain herself. That's so bleh. Byakuya is like, you don't think Hina did it? Girl, she switched out the mixture. She has to be the culprit. Don't be dumb. Makoto, though, points out that the evidence is just too obvious. But Hina claims she was just too darn nervous and didn't realize that she spilled that entire container of poison from Section C and then left her footprints in it when she moved to Section A. But all the footprints are only in front of Section A. This obvious lie catches Byakuya off guard, and Kyoko takes her turn to splurge and mock Byakuya. She says that, heck, you know what? That's not even the only problem with what Hina told us. In fact, she has a new piece of evidence, one that Byakuya gave her. See, back when Byakuya downed that bottle of protein powder disguised as poison, Kyoko asked to look at the bottle. And in the bottom of the bottle, among the last bits of powder, she found a piece of glass. This light blue piece of glass is a piece of the window that Makoto broke to get into the rec room, meaning that the bottle, which Hina claimed she left on the shelf in the chem lab, was actually inside of the rec room up until they unlocked the door. Kyoko also points out something that was planted at the scene, the empty protein can. Byakuya is still struggling to catch up and asks how could she possibly prove that the container was planted? After all, Sakura was poisoned, so she must have drank from the container. She asks the students, well, did any of you trip over the container, move it, or knock it around? And they're all pretty sure that they did. And this is rock solid and proves that the can must have been planted because it was sitting on top of the broken glass. So the poison bottle was in the locked room when the window was broken, and after the room opened, it was moved to the chem lab. The protein can was not inside of the room while it was locked and placed there once the room was unlocked. Sakura was alone in the room with the poison, so she couldn't have been tricked into drinking it.
Tell us already. Sorry. Please, tell us.
Certainly! Hina and Jill got into an argument about Sakura, which resulted in Hina receiving a minor wound to her shoulder. When Sakura learned that they were fighting because of her, she swore to put an end to it. She split up from Hina after leaving the nurse's office and penned notes to Byakuya, Toko, and Yasuhiro, asking them to meet with her at noon in the rec room. She met with Hina and mentioned her plan to talk to the three later that day. Hina gave her some of the candy from her private hoard in an effort to cheer her up. Toko received her letter and, afraid of what Sakura might do, she didn't show up, decided to go to the rec room early to scope it out. She hides in the locker in the back of the room. Yasuhiro, having a similar thought, saw Toko go inside of the rec room and then saw Sakura go inside. Thinking that if Toko was in there, it was safe, he went inside as well. Sakura, unaware that Toko was already there, asked Yasuhiro to wait for her and Byakuya to show up. She gave Yasuhiro a piece of the candy that Hina had shared with her. For reasons that can only be described as the plot needed her to do it, Sakura mutters ominously to herself, and this spooks Yasuhiro, who grabs a Monokuma bottle off of the shelf and clubs her over the head with it. Since Sakura didn't move or anything afterwards, he thought he killed her, so he wrote Toko in a magazine on the table, using Sakura's blood, and then he fled. Toko, who was hiding in the locker, emerged, put the magazine back on the shelf upside down because she's a ding-dong. Sakura then startled Toko, who saw the blood all over her head from the wound dealt by Yasuhiro and passed out. Concerned for her, Sakura shook her awake. Since she passed out, Jill took over. She was spooked by Sakura and also clubbed her over the head with a Monokuma bottle. Afterwards, she cleaned up most of the glass and the chess piece and then fled. Sakura survived both attacks and went to the chem lab, where she accidentally dropped a container of poison powder, which spilled all over the floor in front of the shelves. Some of the powder ended up on one of her shoes, but because she only had business with Section C, she didn't leave any of her footprints behind. Sakura returned to the rec room, jammed the door with a chair, and downed a bottle of poison. Either just before or just after consuming the poison, Sakura ate a piece of the candy that Hina had given her. After she passed out, the bottle rolled out of her grip and ended up on the floor by the door. When Makoto broke the window to get inside, a piece of glass ended up inside of the bottle. When the body was discovered, Makoto and Kyoko moved to investigate Sakura's body, but Hina remained by the door. She spotted the poison bottle and put it in her jacket. When she left to fetch the other students, she took a little detour to the chem lab. She filled the empty poison bottle with protein powder and took the protein can with her, leaving footprints only in front of Section A. She then gathered Byakuya, Toko, and Yasuhiro. While they were all distracted, she placed the protein can in front of the door on top of the broken glass. Byakuya is just utterly flabbergasted that Makoto was able to figure out the case when he couldn't. And Kyoko's like, yo, remember when I said your mocking dismissal of people's feelings was gonna come back to bite you on your ass? Yeah, this is what I meant. He was unable to figure out a logical reason why Hina would try to get everybody killed by meddling with the investigation, because there's straight up no logical reason for it. He almost walked right into Hina's trap. Caught, Hina tearfully explains why she tried to cover up the fact that Sakura took her own life. And it's a rough one, buddy. Hina wanted everybody to die because they made Sakura sad. She blamed everybody, including herself, for Sakura taking her own life and wanted payback. She produces a letter she found on the ground in front of the rec room, which reads, "Such brutality has made me desperate, and so instead of just waiting to be killed, I'll do it by my own hand." Sakura blamed herself for being used as a motive and for Hina being hurt. Hina says that when Sakura told her about inviting the three to the rec room, she warned Sakura against it because she couldn't defeat all three of them if they decided to gang up on her. Which, no, I think she'd probably be fine. I mean, maybe not Jill, but Toko is a twig. It'd take like 2-3 seconds tops just to take her out. Sakura's got this, Hina. But Sakura told Hina not to think of them as her enemies because she considered them her friends. And what did those friends do? They attacked her. She must have been completely devastated. She only wanted to make amends and try to find a peaceful way to resolve their issue, and they all tried to kill her. She reveals that she spoke with Sakura after the attacks took place. Sakura told her that she was glad to have met her and asked her to get her a protein drink. She did as requested, noticed that the poison was missing from the shelf, and realizing what was happening, ran back to the rec room, but it was too late. Monokuma then ruins the moment because he's Monokuma and says, well, isn't everything you just said kind of like your interpretation of her thoughts and feelings though? Because, see, you're reading a suicide note that I wrote. Ain't I a stinker? Here's the real one, which she left in Hina's room. Now, I will be abridging this. It is quite long. The first night at the strange school, the mastermind came to see me. They had taken control of my family's dojo and demanded I become their tool. You might not see the importance of a dojo, but my family has watched over it for over 300 years. I couldn't let it be destroyed under my watch. So even if it meant my own life, I had to protect it. The mastermind wanted me to commit murder. They were probably worried that until the first murder took place, nothing would move forward. But what neither the mastermind nor I expected was the incident involving Sayaka. At that point, the plan changed. The mastermind told me to hold off, to wait until we reached another stalemate. However, as I lived here with all of you, my resolve began to weaken. I understand if you all hate me. I am perfectly willing to accept whatever attack you may make on me. This is my atonement for betraying you, but unfortunately, that's not enough. This won't end with me just accepting your hatred. My own situation has started having an effect on more people than just me. I have an obligation to get the situation under control, and to fulfill that obligation, I've decided to do as the mastermind has commanded. The mastermind demands that I kill someone, so that someone will be me. My dojo will be safe, and above all else, none of you will have to kill anyone. When I die, the source of conflict among all of you dies with me. For that, I'm willing to give up my life. If it can save you, then sacrificing my own life could have no greater meaning. Whatever you think of me, please know that you are all my most treasured friends. I've never had people like you in my life before. Finally, Hina, I want to apologize to you especially. The reason I didn't tell you was because I knew you would try to stop me. I'm really truly sorry, but please don't be sad. If I can thwart the mastermind's plans, if I can keep you from killing each other, that's enough for me. You can use this note to bring the class trial to a quick end. I am so sorry to ask you to do something so unpleasant, but I have to leave the rest to you. Please tell Byakuya, Toko, and Hiro on my behalf. I can't tell anyone about my plan while I'm alive, but I wanted you to understand why I'm doing this. In the end, though, I hope to show myself through actions and not words. Hopefully then they'll see that I never saw you as my enemy. You were only ever my friends. Hina, whatever it takes, survive. Survive along with everyone else, no matter what. Just survive. This breaks poor Hina, who realizes she didn't understand what Sakura was feeling at all, and Monokuma goes for the throat, mocking Hina's efforts. He points out that she very nearly wasted Sakura's sacrifice by almost getting them all killed. Boy, the rest of the students must just be plotting Hina's death as we speak. But Makoto tells him to suck it. It isn't Hina's fault, it's his fault. They don't blame Sakura, and they don't blame Hina. Monokuma reminds them that they're playing a murder game, remember? Byakuya says, sure, there is an elimination game going on, and the rules dictate that all of the others must die for him to win, which is why he's bowing out of the game. He tries to claim this is simply because now that Sakura and Hina have put so much on the line to resist the reality of the game, they no longer fear it, and therefore the game is boring, and why play a boring game? Now his goal is only to find and punish the mastermind for the grave sin of attempting to control him. Monokuma finds their camaraderie boring, and since Sakura is already dead, he has to punish somebody else. Say, alter ego? His execution is probably the least creative one in the entire franchise, which is a psycho thing to say, but here we are. The laptop is crushed repeatedly by an excavator bucket and formed into a sphere, which is then painted to have Monokuma's snout and red eye on it. Monokuma reveals that he knew about Alter all along from the moment Chihiro started fiddling with the laptop. He knew they extracted some data, and obviously he knew they moved him to the hidden room. He says that the data on the laptop was like a little reward for them unlocking something so difficult. Then he reveals that there's actually a bit more to Sakura's note. Quote, "One other thing, Hina, there's something I'd like you to tell the others. Hopefully it will act as a clue to help you unravel the mystery of the school. I've spoken with the mastermind off and on the whole time I've been here, and so I've learned one thing, which is that the mastermind has done something to us. I think what they've done is..." Monokuma refuses to share what Sakura wrote as petty revenge for them, quote, hardening their resolve, but there is one final part of the note that he does read. Quote, "And let me just say this to the mastermind. I'm not going to just lay down and die. I will fight you no matter what." They return to their rooms, and that night, Makoto is woken up by Kyoko. She says his door was unlocked, it's 3 a.m., and she has come to ask him for a favor to meet her by the data center on the 4th floor. So he heads there, but there's no Kyoko in sight. He tries to get the data center door open, but it's locked, of course. Monokuma pops up, reminds him of the rule against breaking into locked rooms, and tells him to stop being weird and to go back to bed. Kyoko finally arrives, explains literally nothing, and brings Makoto back to the dormitory. As they're parting ways, Kyoko leans in close and tells him,
Mukuro Ikusaba, the 16th student, lying hidden somewhere in this school. The one they call the ultimate despair. Watch out for her.
That's the cliffhanger for episode 4 and also part 2. Thanks for watching. I hope you had a fun time. If you're interested in part 3, consider subscribing, or here is another video you might enjoy. See ya!